Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Elephant in the Room podcast. I am your host, Chris Devine. And unfortunately today...
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode
turn
of
this
the
off.
Elephant
Sorry
in
about
the
that. Unfortunately today, Ariel's not going to be able to join us. She's been under the weather. And this is a big disappointment because we have really been looking forward to this episode. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that we're having some technical difficulties, which is not surprising. When it comes to this topic, you know that happens. So I'm checking back in with Randall right now. I'm going to put you guys on hold and check in with his connection and see if we're going to be able to get some good audio out for you guys. So I will be right back, guys. Well, let's check this out and see how it's going to sound. It's a little bit, sounds like there's some feedback.
Yeah, it sounds like echo.
It's much better than it was, though.
Okay, because you're echoing here. But let me, can I try one more thing?
Yes, of course. Please do. No. Go ahead. We have people signing in now to the live on Twitter, I can tell. So it'll give people some time to log in.
I don't think I'll have to get off of here. I just have to change my I just have to change the service. Yeah, this is weird, dude. Someone's not happy.
Yeah, we've never encountered this kind of interruption before. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think I spelled bear wrong.
So is that any better?
I wonder how people, I'm not getting any comments back.
Better, a little better.
Okay, that's better. All right, so we'll go with that. So everybody, welcome back to another episode. You know what we might try and do is mute when I'm talking. I know it's a little bit of a pain, but maybe mute your mic, and then I'll try and mute mine when you're talking. But anyway,
that's me.
It should be on your screen, and there's like a mute mic on the picture of you.
Right.
Okay.
I got it. Okay.
Perfect. Well, we'll see if that works. So anyways, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Elephant in the Room podcast. Again, today I am alone in hosting, as Ariel's been a little bit under the weather. So I would appreciate any good thoughts sent her way. And I know she would appreciate it too. She's going to be, I know she's disappointed about missing this interview. It's been a long time coming. And we are super excited to have Randall Nickerson here with us today. I personally, it's really funny. I feel more nervous today than any of them. And I don't know why, but it's really because I have gotten to know Randall over the last couple of years. And I really just have a deep sense of appreciation for him and his work. And I just want to do it justice. And so I hope that today, through our discussion, we can just expand on the topic and really, you know, Randall, I don't know if you know this, but you've really been an inspiration for me personally in the direction I've taken, you know, my steps and the way I feel about the importance of the experience or story, which I think we're going to talk about today, which is really one of the heart issues of Ariel phenomenon, is how you took that story and followed the experiencer through what she went through, Emily in particular. So as I turn it over to you, I'm just going to ask if you don't mind. Just there's so much we can talk about, and I just want to let the conversation flow. But for people who haven't seen your film, or maybe who have seen your film but want to give a little bit of a synopsis to others about what your film kind of is, can you unpack that for us a little bit? And I'm going to turn off my mic, and hopefully there's no feedback from me as you go ahead and talk about. And then, of course, I want to dig into deeper your background and your inspiration for the film and all that. But if you'll just give a synopsis for now, that would be amazing.
Okay. I don't know. I just I'm aware of the echo. I hope you want to, if somebody checks in with the audio. But yeah, no. Thank you for having me on, Chris. You've been a wonderful person, and I'm really been awesome to get to know you. And we've been on some adventures. We really have, which is really cool. Just around this phenomenon. Ariel, the incident at Ariel School happened in 1994 in Ruwa, Zimbabwe. We're very near the town line, actually. And it involved a schoolyard of children. And what people don't really know is that there were adults also around the area that also witnessed this thing. And it had set down in the morning, broad daylight, at a school ground in Zimbabwe. These creatures got out of this silver craft object and approached the playground. It was covered by the BBC. It was covered by all the local media in Zimbabwe. Reuters covered it. Then John, Harvard professor went over there. Quite a few people over the years have looked into this case because it was astounding. And what I did when I began in 2007 was try to find these people and as adults. So I had all these and collect all the archival video of these children. And when I started to meet them and interview them, I had to be very careful of, I'd look at it very honestly, openly, and if nothing happened there, nothing happened there. And I had theories. I'm like, well, maybe they all made it up, or I had all these possibilities when you approach a topic. But when I started to interview the witnesses, every single time I was blown away because they're still thinking about it. Since 94, it was a significant event to them, all of them. And that just happened. The further I went, the further, the more people I met. Even people. See what the school did when this event happened. They did not include the grade 1s and 2s because they were younger children and they were traumatized. They didn't include them in the interviews that they did at the time. They protected them, which I think was a wise decision at the time. But I found those younger children who were in grade 1 and 2. And those were some of the actual, because they'd never spoken about it and they'd never done a drawing. And those are the kids that really kind of sealed it for me, honestly. Not that I had to be super convinced at that particular point, because it was toward the end of my investigation. But they still think about it. They'll never stop thinking about that. But it's a very significant story. Mass sighting, broad daylight, tons of witnesses. And, in the film, it's an hour and 41 minutes. Our rough cut was 4 hours because there was so much witness testimony from adults and other schools around the area. There were so many in the film. We just had to focus on Ariel School and the kids that witnessed that, because there were a couple of teachers actually that witnessed this also. Anyway, it's a long story, but I'm glad I'm glad I could complete it, because it was quite a haul, long time. But I wanted to get that story right.
Which, you do such a phenomenal job of capturing that, which I think there are so many things about the film that to me are really profound and important. And yes, I'm biased, but honestly, before I met you, I was biased towards the film anyway. That's how I, went to the conference actually that Camille's talking about here in UFO Congress, is where I went specifically to meet you and to get to know, see the film that was being premiered. But so now I'm biased because I know you and I know the heart behind it, but capturing the children and then the adult transformation over the years, and that story that happened between, you do such a phenomenal job doing that with that gap in time, and like you just piece everything together. And it's really what makes it so convincing, I feel, because their stories don't change. And I didn't know that what you just said about these younger ones that you got to interview later on. For the first time, they've probably been interviewed, so they didn't have those earlier stories. And you're saying they reflected the same things that the other children experienced. Wow, that's incredible. And what's the girl's name that she has so many profound quotes in the film, and she talks about, it's really a long story. It's, that's the story about this, is it's a long one. And she also is the one that, for me, when you look in her eyes as a child and you see this like intense curiosity coming from her when she talks about how she was excited and scared at the same time. And then later on as an adult, you learn that she never even shared this with her spouse after all these years. What was that a pattern you saw repeated in these stories, that the profound impact and even the silence? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, yes, you're right. You do see it, because I've been working on Ariel, that film, for a long time. But I've also been studying a lot of these other cases and witnesses and speaking to them. And yeah, it is hugely impactful. And I think what it does is, I think it's very complicated in the way it affects a human being. Enough so you don't even want to tell the person you love, the person you're living with, because you don't want to scare them, and you also don't want them thinking you're crazy, or at least that's the way it's been in the past. But I see that a lot. There's it's hard. I think people really don't understand. I think in the general public, like, it's no joyride. It blows your mind completely when you see something like this or have these kind of experiences. And it's very hard to talk about, because a lot of things you see and happen to you, you don't even understand. They're so out of the realm of normal. It's not even funny. And it brings up all these issues of, did I experience God, or did I experience the devil? Or, you get into this, what is this, And I know that we were talking about that the other day, about how religion or the idea of good and bad, instead of just looking at something squarely and saying, what is this?
Right.
And kind of keeping it out of the good evil category, because you don't learn that way. You have to look at it squarely and see what the data is, so that what's happening. And anyway, I know it's a struggle. It's a struggle for anyone that's gone through it.
Yeah, and I think that you really, what you're saying and what we talked about, and there's that interruption. What we talked about was this, there is this strong, I feel, in like UFO Twitter, social media, there's a strong pull right now, or divide, where there's a population of people that really want to, make it evil, the devil, the jinn, and then there's another population that has had positive experiences and don't want it to be classified that way. And I'm sure there's a whole gamut in between, but you really see the divide like you do with anything on social media. But one of the things you capture in that story of that little girl is this feeling for her that it was both. It was this intrigue, this curiosity, this excitement to see something different and new, and also this terror. And I think that we were talking about the nuances of not always being so, divisive about black and white and right and wrong and good or bad. We wouldn't look at, nature that way. And so can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think you have some good ideas about how, to approach it. Like you said, squarely, what does that mean for you? And you probably want to unmute.
Okay. That's a good question. Yeah, I know I kind of stay out of all that conversation because it's a waste of time. And I don't mean to be hurtful to anybody or anything. It's just, we have a big problem with this. Like, this has been going on for a long time all over the world. And we can't just simply say it's this or this when we really don't know. If we want to decide what it is before we even investigate it, then we're not going to get anywhere. So we really need to inquire and ask questions. And you're right. People go through terror around this, and they also go through awe. Like, it is the most profound thing you'll ever see. Yeah, you'll ever see on this planet. And both of those emotions are real, and they both exist at the same time. Yeah, I just sort of try to stay in the background and help as much as I can. I was just talking with somebody the other day that called me that had an encounter down in Pennsylvania. Yeah, just all you can do is listen, because she was traumatized, and she was also completely blown away. Wasn't ready for that to happen. Didn't even think it was real. She didn't even think UFOs or aliens or UAPs and NHI were
Wow.
a reality. So she's been processing that, and whatever I can do to just listen to her, because I know it's a journey, and but it is definitely not easy. And what makes it more difficult is when people ridicule you, or when they don't understand the depth of that experience or encounter. But yeah, I think we need, my personally, I just like, boy, we got to get on this and figure this out as quickly as possible, because it's been going on for a long time, and we've just been arguing about it. Like, time is of the essence, and obviously these things are far, far ahead of us. And that's what kind of concerns me the most is we can't mess around.
Do you think there's I definitely hear the urgency coming from you in addressing the topic. And, you look back at what some of the messages the children felt like they received. Do you see any connection in those messages and your experience with other experiencers and being involved in this community and hearing stories? Do you think there's a connection?
I do. I do. I've seen it over and over, and other people will tell you the same thing, that when people have these encounters, for whatever reason, these creatures communicate to you about your own environment. So all the things the kids said when I was interviewing them, and the things they said when they were really young, that's consistent. That's pretty consistent throughout the community of the people that this has occurred to. And that raises a serious question. I mean, we're seeing our climate get out of hand. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. Go outside. Go outside and feel what's going on, and study weather and patterns and see what's going on. It may be something that we should be concerned about. And I mean, I don't know why these creatures are I don't have the answers to that. It's a consistent thing amongst people who've had encounters with these things.
Yeah.
Why?
That is, I think, really important. One of the things I noticed early on with some of my readings, and reading, even like Trinity, or I don't remember if it was the case of Trinity or the one in Socorro. And these little boys, did get some communication about impending doom and some things, images of buildings that didn't exist yet, in their mind. And I remember that. And then when I saw your film, that really is one of the things that struck me as this consistency. And then I've learned since that there's really a pattern there. And one of the things I've found interesting in just the last 2 or 3 years, as somebody who considers herself an experiencer, and other people in the community, we found a pattern of, like, people who have had experiences tend to make some shifts in their life and become more conscious about the environment. A lot of them become vegetarians. Like, we're seeing some of these patterns and these shifts, and awareness that happens after you see something that you think is, otherworldly or outside of your ability to understand. And I think there's just another pattern there that's interesting and of note. Did you find that also in your, studies and research?
Yes. Yeah, it's consistent. I think that's what led people like Bud Hopkins, John Mack, a lot of the academic community to really look at this, was because of the consistencies. Like, it wasn't just a bunch of people making it up, or one person, it wasn't like that. There was a consistent nature that was independent and individual to each person, but it was the same story. I know that's what got Dr. John Mack involved, was that the consistency. And that's what gets a lot of researchers, when they really look into it, you're like, wait a second, these people don't know each other at all. And this isn't even in the media in any way, and yet they are talking, and they're having the same effects. Yeah, I just think it's, how people do change their lives. I think it's such a powerful experience. It's like when you lose a loved one, or, it's that kind of level of an experience where you come out of that experience and you look at life a little differently. These things aren't supposed to exist, but they're there. Yeah. I can't hear you, Chris. I don't know why. Are you on mute?
Yep, I'm muted. Sorry.
Okay.
This was back in the 90s when they had their encounter, and John Mack has been, researching for quite some time, right? Before that. Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
He was researching since 1990, in the middle of the year. Yeah.
And do you see, and he started researching abduction stories, and then this occurred, and so he already had this history. Do you think that this phenomenon is happening at the same rate, is consistent, continues to happen? Do you think that there was like a time where maybe it happened and it stopped? Is there any indication from, what you've learned, like, are these experiences increasing, changing?
I think, well, it's funny because talk to a bunch of people that really aren't really paying too much attention to what's going on, and they're like, oh, that was a time period and that was happening, and they're like, it's all stopped now. I'm like, no, that's not the truth. I've been talking to people in Canada, France, different places. I mean, France is actually not really addressing this in the way they should, but at least on the experiential level. But I don't think I don't think it's changed too much. I do think it has accelerated. I do, and that concerns me. You know, that's why I'm even speaking about it. Is the concern that things are escalating. Why? You know, I asked that question of what does that mean, and then I also that immediately makes me think about the climate, and if we are on a downhill slope as a planet, which has millions of species other than us, those things may be concerned about that and may intervene, which may be the reason why disclosure is being pushed, to be honest. I hope that's not true.
Right, because we don't know what their intervention would entail.
Right. Yeah.
Right. What? There's that feedback again. When you look at, like you said, this feeling of urgency, it you know, it aligns with this. You know, when you look at the title of Lou Elizondo's upcoming book, Imminent. I mean, a lot of people are speculating that there is something imminent that a reason we have to address this topic soon. And I don't know whether things have escalated or not, but I certainly know that the topic is definitely probably nothing like in your history being talked about publicly. And you know, I think people in the past were so stigmatized and so traumatized and so silenced that something shifted, you know, when in the past few years, and it feels imminent.
I noticed a change in 2016 was when I first noticed. This was before the New York Times. I noticed a shift, and then once the New York Times hit, that was a big deal, and it's been changing rapidly ever since. But I think, I mean, it's amazing what Lou and other people have been doing. I think it's amazing what they've been doing and the bravery. And I've been sort of sitting in the background, cheering them on and just whatever, trying to support those people. But I agree with the urgency. I've always felt that urgency, to be honest. But boy, it's definitely getting more prevalent in my mind. Sorry, I got some mirror thing bouncing the light around here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see that actually. It's right in your eye.
Let me move that. Hang on.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway.
One of the things that comes up about your film is this, and one of the viewers has asked about the one guy who said he started the rumor. And so I think we all know what, you know, everybody's referring to. There was a film that came out, a series that came out on Netflix a couple of years ago. Talk to us about that a little bit and share your insight, if you don't mind.
I won't mention names at this point, but yeah, I've been working 15 years on this film. I had a year where I was working with one of the largest companies. You'd all know the name. I'm not going to say it right now, but they basically worked with me, passed a whole bunch of money through my account, and then canceled it and did their own version, which is what she's referring to. I cannot even believe what those people did. So they took one of the witnesses who I had interviewed also and chopped his interview. If you talk to him, he'll tell you, because he did see it. He did see it. But he did also have an attitude toward some of the other kids, like, oh, they're making things up. But what this film and director, and he's a piece of shit, sorry, Sorry to say that, but he knows why. He knows why. It's not business. That's crime, my friend. That's not business. Yeah, I mean, they decided to do that, and it just was what I felt like they were doing was try to create question in the story where there wasn't any. So they took him and he'll tell you, they chopped his interview up. They also paid these people, by the way, because they would not do it voluntarily. They paid them, which you don't do in a documentary, period. So violations of rules all over the place with that. But it's a good question, and unfortunately that's why they did that, was to throw question into the case so it wasn't as powerful, which is why they didn't want which is why they did what they did to me and my crew and my family and my investors.
Yeah, it's really a shame what has happened, and I think it's one of the reasons I think it's so important. What's that?
Sorry to get so emotional about it. It's just
No, of course. And, I think it's one of the reasons it's so important that the UFO community get behind you and this film and, recognize you had to put it out independently because of the situation. And it's harder to get out that way. And people, once they see it, are just convinced of how important this film is. But it's a matter of getting the word out, and you're still doing screenings, you're still out promoting the film, because it is not about the film, it's about the experiencers in the film and the urgency you feel behind this message getting out. And I just can't think of a more powerful way to get out a message than through storytelling. And you do such a phenomenal job with the film. I mean, there's so many things that are unique about it. Like, there's no narration throughout the film. You're not featured in the voice. You're not narrating. It's really, you took care to make sure everything was the voice of the people involved. You just the music. What's that?
What's that? I didn't even put myself in my own movie.
Yeah, you didn't even put yourself in your own movie, and and not that
it wasn't about me.
I know, I know, and that's it shows through the story, the lens of through the people, and I think that's why it's so powerful. You see it through the eyes of the children and then the adults later on. And and then the other thing, I don't know if a lot of people know, you have a soundtrack out for the film, which is phenomenal. I recommend you all check it out. I think it's on Apple Music and some other places, arielphenomenon.com. You can find all his merch and stuff. But that's, anyways, I say all this because I think this film is so important to the topic. I think it captures the heart of the issue that comes down to, this existential place we need to start talking about, because people are having experiences in various realms, in various anomalous experiences, and no one's been talking about them. And there's psychiatric effects on people's lives, some good, some bad. No one's addressing that. And there's also an imminent situation that society is going to be facing that we are not prepared for. And how can we prepare if we're not having conversation? And a lot of people have suffered throughout history carrying this burden privately, and really holding it, and doing what they can to share the message with the world, but they're still, carrying that burden. And it's time that, we have the understanding that we deserve as human beings into what's going on. Sorry, I went off on a rant there. I'm interested in something that came out recently about BBC journalist Timothy Leach, there was some news that broke that said that he was targeted by the CIA after this. You okay?
Yeah, hang on. I got my computer just froze up.
Uh-oh.
There you are. Okay, sorry. Yes, Tim, about being threatened by. So, can I just look? Nobody's really talking about this, and again, I'll take the risk to do it. There's other filmmakers who've been threatened. I've had experiences myself with this very same thing. Lou, all these people. Why are people's lives getting threatened? They're being hurt, and it has been going on since the hearings last year on a completely different level. This is the United States of America. I've never experienced anything like this, and other people are experiencing this. Other filmmakers, other people who are whistleblowers, they are getting hit.
Authors. Some of the authors on Amazon are getting all their books pulled for no reason.
So what is so, like, if there's nothing here, why would you do that to people? That it's just so off. It's so wrong. I'm sorry to be, but I can't be quiet about it anymore. Enough people have spoken about it. I've spoken up about it. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes with attorneys, with Congress, with a lot of this issue, and a lot of these people should be protected. To be frank.
So to be clear, you're saying that there are instances of people in the industry, getting threatened, including yourself.
What's that again?
Oh, I said, to be clear, what you're saying is that there's people in the industry, or including yourself, that have been threatened.
There's military people, there's people in the film industry, authors. This has been going on for a while. It's just taken a different kind of step since the hearings in DC in last year. So, I mean, it's just disturbing, and I can't not say anything at this point because of the I'm not the only one that's happening to by any stretch. But why is it even happening? It shouldn't be happening. It's against the law. Yeah, it's against the law.
So this is part of the UFO lore, that people who speak out on this topic, or who have had experiences, or who are involved, get these types of visitations. But it's really kind of displacing to hear that this is actually happening in today's day and age.
Yeah, it's real. So you either run away scared, or you continue to do. I mean, in searching for the truth, you're not breaking the law, hopefully, right? So,
right.
But I think in the past these entities have been able to, these people have been able to scare quite a few people away. But that's not going to happen this time.
What do you think has changed? Why do you think it's not going to happen this time?
I think too many people know. I think it's coming from so many different angles that they can't control it. I mean, I did make some phone calls to some friends of mine who are career military people, and asked them, because I was concerned about what was going on and what I was seeing. And they said, "Don't worry, man, cat's out of the bag. They cannot get back in the bag." And I said, "Are you sure?" Because what I've seen, anyway.
Right.
So I think we're in a different time where we are going to learn a lot about this. But I think they're trying to slow down the avalanche of information. And I have to say, if I was the controllers of this country or the world, I would be. They're concerned about panic, and of course they are. It's no joke. Right. And I understand that, and we have to be careful with how we deal with it. But let's have that conversation, and let's figure out how we can deal with this. And they should be doing more of their, work groups, study groups, committee meetings about, don't just do the rote thing that you've done in the past to keep this off the table. do it differently because your public has changed, you know, and information gathering has changed.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think they are.
I mean,
So
I think
they're
that
not my adversary, you know.
the
They're not
rise
my
of
adversary.
social media, they can't control information anymore. And people are, I mean, look, I mean, one of the adventures you and I got to go on was the congressional hearings in Washington, D.C. And we hung out together that whole week or weekend or whatever it was. And, you know, the amount of people that showed up for those hearings, they had never prepared for at Congress. I mean, they've never seen anything like it. And so that was really inspiring to see all these people show up and start showing that we care about this topic and in a serious manner. I mean, you know, it was in a congressional hearing. But that is interesting that you see a shift in like threats or attacks after that hearing because you know, I think a lot of people, you're pretty quiet on social media, but a lot of people have been following, you know, James Fox and his film about to come out. And it seems like there was some struggles that he was going through at the time. And a lot of people were speculating, you know, it seems like they were purposeful attacks. So I mean, I don't know if that is true or not. I'm just saying that we are seeing it in our filmmakers.
That is. Oh, it happened to everybody. It has happened in the last year. It has been brutal. I know those other filmmakers are not talking. I will speak for them. That it's real. You know, I know. I get it. I don't want to be talking about this. Be talking about my great, whatever, the film and the topic itself.
Yeah.
But at some point, you have to stand up and say, "Oh, this is not. This shouldn't be happening." In this, it's against every law in our country. It's against our constitution what these people are doing. Like, why are they doing this? Also, like, oh my God, like the extent they have gone is actually absolutely unbelievable. And I'm sure Jeremy, James, and all the other filmmakers out there know exactly what I'm talking about. I know they do.
Well, and it's kind of crazy.
People have come forward.
It's, I mean, I've even seen it on Skinwalker Ranch. You watch the film and these giant military, like globe masters are flying over 300 feet above his ranch. No radar turned on and they're filming it. I mean, and Black Hawk helicopters showing up right after these experiments. How they're intimidating. They're trying to send a message. And or maybe they're surveilling both and maybe, but it's really like I said, disheartening because it tells you that, I mean, like literally what we're doing right now talking, I can hear this interference in our line I've never experienced before. And you said that you had your phone was bleeped out on you recently.
I had a meeting yesterday and I knew it was a big deal. And when this happened, I'm like, my phone's not working. I'm like, my computer, whatever. I mean, I don't like to be conspiratorially thinking, but it just.
You've seen enough evidence.
I've seen it so many times. And, you know, and I'm an electronics guy. I know I build computers in my spare time. So. Yeah, you see some anomalies that just do not make sense at all, and you know, I just know people are paying it. There are certain people paying very close attention to this stuff. Of course, they are. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, how are they going to control? The narrative if experiences are increasing and there's an imminent, you know, encounter.
They should have some discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. What take us back to when you decided to do this film. What was your inspiration at that time or motivation? What and has it changed over the years? Because it took you many, many years to document this story.
It did. Yeah, it's complicated. But I had seen the video of the interviews of these children at Ariel School back in 1995, and I was I had somebody I knew. I knew John Mack through various circles, and when he passed away in 2004, um, uh, the John Mack Foundation and the people I knew, Dominique and other people, said, "Hey, you want it?" Because they just had done a short film and they thought it was good, and they were like, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's check it out." And all I had at that time was John Mack's footage, and I didn't realize there were all these other people who would interview these children as well at the time. And once I started finding those, because people were saying, "Well, John Mack was biased." Okay, maybe. But when I had other sources that weren't him, then you're saying, okay, there's 6, 7 other news agencies and reporters that were also biased, which I did not find to be the case. So, and I thought John, even though, like, when I really looked at his interviews of the children, there were people that said, "Oh, he has some leading questions." Well, great, because some of his leading questions, the kids were like, "No, that's
exactly what I noticed." Yes, I heard one of those, and I was going to write it down, and I don't know if I can remember it off the top of my head, but I was rewatching it again today, and it was exactly that. He's like, "Was it, round or flat?" And they're like, "No, it was, purple." I mean, it was completely against anything they led, and I thought, wow, this is really telling. These kids had the bravery enough to speak their truth, which to me is very telling about their experience, and the reality of it.
That was an experience going to the hearings, because you called me. You called me, and I was in Tennessee doing a screening of the film, and I didn't really know about it. I got in the car, drove like 13 hours straight there, waited in line from 9 o'clock, and we were talking the whole time, and
it was great. Yeah, I called.
And there were so many people there; they had to open up an entire another room,
which I ended up in. Because I was 2 people away from getting in the door. So Randall had left the night before at like 9 p.m. to stand at the Rayburn building. And he was the first in line, of course, because he's like, "I'm going to stand." And was it raining? I feel like it was raining. And he's like, "I'm going to stand there all night." And he did. And I think he called me about like 4:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock and said, "There's people starting to line up. You need to get down here." And I did. I headed over there at like 5:30 in the morning. There was maybe 15 people. I could probably count them because I have the videos and stuff. But then people just started sneaking in.
There were professional line placeholders, and they showed up after I was there, and there were like 4 of them that were hired to hold their place in line, and them and I had a little conflict because they showed up later. I was like, "I was first here, guys. Come on, you got to be." And they were actually really good. They said, "No, you've been here for a long time. We'll let you take that first spot." Anyway, did I lose you? I think Chris is gone. I don't know if we're still live, but yeah, Chris has been just a wonderful person to chat about this with. I'm really glad she's doing this show, and I hope she comes back. Yeah, the hearings were really important, amazing. It's history. I'm really glad I was there. Chris was there. A lot of old timers, so to speak. The old guard, as they said, were there because this issue's been around for so long, and the community has never gotten a break, and they finally did. Not quite sure what happened. Let me see. I don't even know if I'm live still. I don't know what's happening. But I know Chris is not there. Let me log out and log back in with her.
Hey guys, so I'm back. Apparently, it stayed on live even though it booted me out, which is really weird. Hey guys, so I'm back. Apparently, it stayed on live. There you are.
That was pretty wild.
Yeah, that was wild. They totally got booted out of the internet, and looks like we're back. All right. Hey, I don't hear the echo anymore.
It's a little better, oddly. Yeah.
Anyway, you were talking about, I think I don't remember where we left off, but the inspiration for the film and John Mack, I think, which is something I didn't want to unpack, is just like there's so many things in the film that are important, the experiential side of the story, but also John Mack's story himself. For those who don't know him and his story, can you kind of talk a little bit about that and how important it is to this topic, and have we seen anyone else like that since, to be honest? I mean, in the field, because I feel like that's a huge gap. But anyways, go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, he had an extraordinary career. He was a professor of psychiatry. He won the Pulitzer Prize. He was a very, very, very intelligent man. And he wouldn't have just taken the subject on out of the blue. And he was really the first Ivy League professor at a prestigious university to take it seriously. And, since then, we have a couple professors from Harvard who are studying the objects and astronomers and stuff. But you got nobody like him, really, who is a psychiatrist, a professor, somebody with that kind of experience. I mean, John, oh my God, that man, he wrote book after book after book, paper after paper after paper on things like drug addiction, alcoholism, like all of the things that we know about. And I mean, he wrote an enormous volume of valuable information from study, because he worked with clients, he worked with children, he worked, for decades and decades and decades, which is how you get to be a professor at Harvard.
Right.
So yeah, we haven't seen anybody like him, and I'm surprised he's not being discussed more. Like, did Harvard forget that he existed? Because he didn't get mentioned very much.
Yeah, it's really sad. And
30 years
another
from-
example.
He'll be a legend. 30 years from now, that man will be in all the textbooks and everything, because he was so far ahead of everybody. He still is. The work
Yeah,
John did, he is still ahead of everybody else on that subject matter.
I agree. And I think he needs to be studied more, in his, just really researched. All his readings and his, everything we can get our hands on should be kind of the example as we move forward in this. I think that in this field that should start, because there clearly isn't one. But we need to get to a point where we have help for people. And yeah, I mean, there are definitely people working in the field, hypnotherapists and things like that. So that's important. But it's also fringe that I fear that people who need access don't understand how to get it. So.
You mean on a health perspective, or when they have something happen or something? Yeah, there's nowhere to go. I mean, you can go to the police department, they're going to say, it's there's nowhere to go, except if you're lucky to have.
This is just going to be a classic episode where things don't work. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. I think we might have to wrap this, guys. Let's see how he. Wow, we're just having technical issues today. You guys bear with us and see if we can get him back on, but I'm not sure what is going on with our feeds today. We have had more technical issues on this show than Ariel and I have had on any show. And of course, it was hilarious because it happened right after we talked about some of this stuff and how there's just blocking of information going out, which sounds conspiracy theory, but let's be honest. Okay. Let's see if we can get him back up or not. Here's my honey. Well, let me check my email. Good answer, babe. Good answer. Okay, let me see if I can get on my Twitter. Okay, guys, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and wrap up this stream. I am, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry that we've had technical issues. If I can get him back on and he wants to continue, I will send out another link, I think. Otherwise, we'll just wrap this. Thank you for your patience. I hope that you guys really take the time to go check out the film. Ariel Phenomenon by Randall Nickerson. And also there's a soundtrack. It's absolutely beautiful. That's one of the things I want to talk about. And I'll go ahead and talk while we're waiting to see if he pops back on. But the soundtrack is got some audio clips of like John Mack. It's got audio clips of the children. The music is beautifully done. And of course, I don't know if all of you know this, but Randall is actually a pianist and concert pianist, and he is a musician, and so he also has some of the scores on the soundtrack. So a really an amazing soundtrack. It's beautiful. It's great to just meditate and listen to. And then a big thing we wanted to talk about is Randall is going to be doing several screenings here in the Phoenix area next weekend. So Saturday, the Phoenix MUFON is putting on let me see if I can pop this up if you guys don't mind. Let me look it up. Yeah, here it is. On July 20th, let me go ahead and show share screen, Phoenix MUFON. Okay. So on July 20th, the Phoenix MUFON is welcoming Randall, and they're going to be putting on a screening, and he'll be here in person. And so you can meet him, talk to him. It is from 12 to 3. And it's only $15. So you can find it by looking up phoenixmufon.com, and you will see that. And then also he is going to, let me pop this one up as well, be in Sedona. So if you are in the Sedona area next weekend, let's see, Ariel. Yeah. So let me pop that up on the screen so you guys can see it. So he will be in the Sedona on Sunday, July 21st, 6 to 8 p.m. And he'll be presenting the film on, and that's the other thing. If you're in either one of these areas and you have a chance to go see the film on the big screen, it is a total different experience. I highly recommend it. It was really made for big screen, and it really just immerses you in the film in a different way. So I highly recommend you go if you're in the Phoenix area Saturday or Sedona on Sunday. And, you know, stop by and say hi. I should be at both of those screenings with my family and Randall, and look forward to meeting any of you if you show up. And so those are really important things I wanted you guys to know. Let's see. I think that is it. I just think we're not going to get Randall back on, but check out those screenings, check out the film. If you have any more questions, feel free to send them over and I'll try and get them to him. It was an amazing show, even though we had some technical issues. I really appreciate Randall's time. And I look forward to reconnecting with you. Send your positive thoughts to Ariel. Like I said, she's had a couple rough weeks, flood in her house, a sick family member, and now she's not feeling great. So send her your well wishes. I really miss her, and it's not the same without her. And then also also next week, we have a live stream with Katie Page from Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. She is a experiencer and researcher in the field. She was featured at the Contact in the Desert as one of the female panelists. She has an amazing story about her childhood experiences on this ranch in the Rocky Mountains. And she's going to share all that with us then. So I look forward to it. You guys, if you like our content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate your support. We really are self-supported, self-funded. We haven't really asked for any kind of support. So really just asking you guys to like and subscribe to our page and like our content. Go back and listen to our old podcast. We've had some amazing guests on the show. And we really are just excited about bringing you more guests, and obviously the more exposure we get, the more we can share stories with you and help bring this topic to the public in a more broad sense. So we wish you all well. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you soon.